This is Roger Wood at Large, news and interviews. Your news update, Friday, November 22, 2024. Gunmaker Sig Sauer of Newington, New Hampshire, has been slapped with $11 million in penalties over its P320 pistol. It was a jury in Philadelphia that awarded damages to Army veteran George Abraham, who sued the company in 2022 over what was alleged to be a defective gun. He suffered serious leg injuries after it went off sitting in its holster. According to a news release, Sig Sauer showed reckless indifference to the rights of others in the distribution of the pistol. Abraham is just one of over 100 plaintiffs in the case against the firearms maker. The P320 is among the most popular guns in America, with some 2.5 million sold since its introduction in 2014. The company has stood by the firearm, saying it's innovative and holds patents including several relating to safety mechanisms. But the attorney for Abraham said it needs to be redesigned with a safety like other manufacturers. The company seeks a judgment in its favor, leading to a probable appeal. Serious accidents on two major highways in New Hampshire have resulted in deaths and serious injuries. One of those highways is I-95, which has seen a series of serious accidents recently, mostly around the Greenland and Portsmouth exits, and there's been a call for a barrier in the median strip to help head off crashes in the future. On I-93, meanwhile, there's been a crash that killed a 19-year-old man from Franklin, Bennett Brooks. He's the 10th young driver killed on New Hampshire roads so far this year. That, according to the New Hampshire Department of Safety, that number was 3 in the year 2023. Iconic Gillies Diner in downtown Portsmouth is the latest property to be scooped up by developer Mark McNabb. It's been a fixture near the parking garage downtown for decades after moving from middle of Market Square. The city council approved a land swap with the developer after it was found that part of the parking garage encroaches on private property. A spokesperson for the developer said that for the foreseeable future, Gillies will be operated in essentially the same way. The property is expected to be closed on in 2025. The developer also owns the historic J.J. Newberry's building as well as other downtown Portsmouth properties. He has also proposed holding winter farmers markets in the building he developed at the intersection of Daniel Street and Penhallow. A new city tax rate announcement in Nashua has been delayed. The superintendent of the school district has informed the mayor's office the school department has not yet been able to file its form, DOE 25, with the New Hampshire Department of Education. The delayed form will result in a delay in the determination of the tax rate by the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration and delay in the mailing of Nashua's tax bills. A Maine Republican legislator has been reelected by one vote over his opponent in a recount. It broke a tie with his Democratic rival, assuring that Lucas Lanigan of Sanford will return to the legislature. But he's also facing a criminal charge of domestic violence aggravated assault. In October, he is denying wrongdoing in the case against him. The representative tallied 2,476 votes in the first count. That was a tie with Democrat Patty Kidder. A citizens group has won a legal issue against Central Maine Power Company. Our Power lost a ballot question calling for the company to be publicly owned, but the Public Utilities Commission awarded Our Power $80,000, which covers the cost of legal fees incurred by the advocacy group. CMP sold for $2.5 billion to the Spanish firm. The 2024 Boston Celtics NBA championship team this week celebrated its wins with a visit to the White House and President Joe Biden. It's the latest professional sports team honored on the White House South Lawn by presidents ranging from Lyndon B. Johnson to Barack Obama. Patty Bondi is the latest nominee for the nation's Attorney General's office. She's a Florida lawyer, quickly named after Representative Matt Gaetz withdrew his nomination during controversy over his personal activities, alleged to be illegal drug use and sexual activity with a minor. For her part, Bondi is a Republican loyalist who served as Florida's Attorney General from 2011 to 2019. As in all the nominations, they must be approved by the Senate. New Hampshire U.S. Senator Maggie Hassan was one of two legislators interviewed by Fox News journalist Brett Baer. She and fellow Senator Joni Ernst were there to push for legislation to crack down on foreign entities conducting violent crimes against the U.S. She also spoke of the need to stand strong against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Jose Ibarra will be spending the rest of his life in prison after a murder in Georgia. He was convicted by a judge and sentenced to that term after a short court trial that horrified her family when they learned of the gruesome crime against Laken Riley. She was assaulted and strangled during her morning run on the campus. Coming up, more conversation on the interview with Laurie McIntosh and Anna Bodro of Our Place in Dover.
I am learning so much from these inspirational parents and the board. Laurie is a founding board member and the board chair right now, and with two sons with disabilities. So she's a busy lady on top of trying to launch this house. Laurie, you might want to mention the legislative session, right, that group that was just started.
So in the process of trying to create this housing, we have come across a number of barriers within the state of New Hampshire. It is not easy. So we have to be very careful to meet federal rules. There are state rules. There are zoning rules. So for instance, when we bought property, or we were looking to buy property in an R20 zone in Dover, there's all kinds of, you can have congregate care, you can have assisted living in an R20, but only for seniors. So we had to go to the town and get, authority to change the use to be able to house people with developmental disabilities.
So an R20 is residential only?
Residential 20, and we were limited to 4 units, so we had to increase the units, but we also had to, make this, change of use is what they call it, because it's not under R20 usually. So if zoning in towns allowed not only for seniors, but for people with developmental disabilities, that would eliminate a whole bunch of meetings that we had to go to and justification. Obviously, the seniors spoke up a long time ago and said, we need housing, so allow us to have assisted living in an R20. But now it's time for this population to speak up and say, we need this too. And if we could get some statewide changes. So anyway, that's just one example of a change that we would like the state to be aware of. So we helped to pass a bill, 1168, that went through and was signed by Governor Sununu. So to establish a committee to study the effect of the housing crisis on people with disabilities. So that committee has been meeting now since August, and the committee members are learning all about housing populations of people with disabilities and what the barriers are, so that they can begin to change some of the state laws and rules to make it easier to do this.
Is it a diverse committee?
Is it a diverse committee? Well, there's 4 representatives on the committee, 1 senator and 3 representatives, I think, or maybe they're all 4. Anyway, they are new to this, so to housing and things like that. So I'm not sure. I would say it was a diverse committee. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into that.
Anna, I think that the people at Visions were building anew, weren't they? Putting a new building up. Was that it?
Yes. Yeah. Is it Hanover? Well, one in Hanover and one in Lebanon.
The Hanover is the new one.
Yeah. Hanover is the new one.
So they had to turn a shovel to get things started there, right?
Yes. Yes. And we've been, we just purchased our first building in Dover, New Hampshire on August 1st. With some funding and a loan, and got it closed. And now the next step is to start the construction and renovation phase. And oh my gosh, it's expensive. Vision's project, I forget, you might have the numbers on how many millions of
I
dollars it
think
costs.
theirs is 4 million or a little more than that. Yeah.
Right. So for a small group of parents having to raise, I don't think ours is going to be 4 million, hopefully. But that's a lot to raise. And there's a certain urgency. I'm used to raising money, taking 2, 3 years to put together a $3 million project. But we kind of don't have that kind of time.
Mhm.
But yeah, Visions has done, and they've been around, what, 10, 12 years? So
Yeah,
they've
10
done it
years.
before, and they have a history and a track record of funding and fundraising. But I think Lori knows more about their new building than I do.
Well, just that, their first building was an old inn that they renovated to put apartments in.
Right.
They got the services running there. They bought 2 houses in downtown Lebanon right next to each other. And so they gutted those houses completely, but made them into apartments with a common area. They have a common kitchen, living room, and full staffing. And then the Hanover project now is a brand new building. So they're sort of upgrading every time. And so a brand new building can be very expensive.
Is it already occupied?
They do have people in there now. I think they're not full yet. They're also having trouble getting some staffing.
Who isn't,
Yes,
right? Right, Anna?
yeah, staffing is one of the things I tend to think long-term planner type person, and it's a slog it was difficult to purchase the building. It's difficult now going through the contractor bidding process. But I'm thinking once we open the doors, it's going to be difficult to staff it, just because staffing at all levels
Right.
remains a critical issue throughout the
What kind of
state.
staff do you need? Talk about the staff you'll need, for one.
Well, we're going to need direct care staff, people who have experience working with people with disabilities. They're called DSPs. They're called direct support professionals.
Oh, I thought it was direct service provider.
Direct service providers. Yeah. DSPs. I get my acronyms all mixed up. Anyway, so currently people with developmental disabilities, if they're living at home, with their Medicaid budget, they can hire DSPs to come into their house and help teach them their daily living skills, help them get out in the community, take them to work, things like that. So it would be the same group of people that we would be hiring to work in this project. We're hoping that it will be attractive to DSPs because they will have the camaraderie of working with other DSPs. Right now, they're working in isolation. In people's homes or in people's apartments. And when you put people together, then you can share staff and you can, you can trade off. I'm going to work with this person one day and another person another day. So you're not, just with the same person all the time. Also, you can take groups of people. You could take 2 or 3 people to the grocery store instead of just one. And it's a little more fun. So we're hoping that, and we will be supporting our staff to the best that we can, providing them with workshops and benefits and everything we can do to make them really happy.
You can view their website at ourplaceny.org. This is Roger Wood at Large, news and interviews.